have Pony Zook, the first point that way, the
What
first grand champion of Zed Run with his horse Dank, the main representative and the face of High Horse Stables. And we have the king of controversy and the one of the most prolific breeders on the platform in Danshan. As normal, I got my partner, MJ Stables, the king of analytics as far as speed goes. If you don't know, check out MJ Informations. It's definitely a great tool. And myself, just the Golden Globe Master, the fan of Zed. I'm not nothing special, just a guy with donkeys who loves to talk about Zed. So, how's everybody doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to be here. Excited to be here. Super fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a conversation about Zed. Hopefully, people in the community get to ask some questions that they want any of the four of us to answer. I'm happy to answer anything or have a conversation on any topic regarding Zed.
Yeah, thank you guys both for coming on. We're super happy to have you both here. Just to kind of kick things off, Danshan, we'll start with you. Kind of what got you into Zed, and who, if anyone, do you look up to within the community?
Well, I mean, I think, originally I got into Zed. I kind of just ran across it. I was kind of playing with Top Shot a little bit, and I kind of just ran across it, and I was like, man, this looks amazing. I bought a horrible horse, the regular everybody else has done it a million times.
Yeah.
I bought a horrible horse, ran it 10 times, got upset, said I'm gonna get better. So I just went nuts. I don't know. I must own 100 horses now. So Lord knows.
Well, I checked out at least your main stable earlier. We'll definitely circle back and talk about that soon. What about you, Zook?
I got involved similarly. I was into Top Shot and did pretty well there. Kind of it led me to Zed a little. Got obsessed with the utility. Got obsessed with racing your horses, as people were saying at the time. A lot of other NFTs, you couldn't race them. You couldn't race your highlights. So that kind of drew me into the love of the game. I got really lucky early on. Had some really good horses that allowed me to bankroll into horses such as Dank and Silly Samwise. And once you get horses like those early on, especially females, once breeding opens, those are kind of all you need. So I got lucky. I bought Dank UU. The person that owned Silly Samwise was T-Chad, who's a friend. And those two horses fell into my lap a little bit, and I just got super lucky with them.
Love it, love it. Congratulations on winning the Digital Derby with Dank, by the way. For those of you that didn't tune in, it was awesome. Jean Versal put on a great stream along with the whole Digital Derby team. It was a lot of fun to watch, and Zook and Dank ended up winning. So how did you kind of, speaking of Dank, how did you get into acquiring Dank?
Dank was an unbred, unraced purchase for 2 ETH. A Z2 legendary. I think I tweeted out today. It was April 17th. I got her. Was looking. I had a budget at the time where I was trying to build out a stable. I saw what the going rate was going for those types of horses at the time. I forget exactly what ETH was going for, but I still say it to this day, Zeke, and I hope Dank winning kind of proves this. And I want people to know I'm not pumping my bags because Dank's the only one I think I have, and I'm not selling her. Z2 legendaries are some of the most undervalued horses in the game. When you think about what goes into making them, the Z1s, how expensive those are in nature, even if you have a bad racing and producing horse, just the asset itself and the value of the blood alone. I got it for 2 ETH UU. I know they're going for about 0.75 ETH UU right now. I think that's an incredible deal, especially if you're trying to start a stable in the ecosystem as it's currently constructed.
So what drew you to that, being a UU horse?
I like, and this is something.
Why not go somewhere else? I guess is kind of my question.
Yeah, it's something I struggled with Silly Samwise early on. I just like getting that fresh slate where I know all the stats that the horse had, or with me. It's what draws me to the ownership of the NFT, the ownership of the horse to begin with. I understand as the game goes on, more and more horses that end up in my stable will have probably been raced at some point if they are to be good racers as I purchase them. But just as you can tell with the premium of the market, I fall into that bucket. I'm always going to pay a little bit extra to have the ability to own every single stat with that horse. And Dank will always be a little bit more tied to myself intrinsically in my own head because I've had her the whole time. And I know if I want to see my stats with Silly Samwise on Know Your Horses, I have to start at the date I purchased her, not the date that she was bought.
Sure. Very interesting. I know some people kind of struggle with that idea of buying a UU horse right away, and it can be scary, but it can also be just an amazing rush. So that's pretty cool.
Remember, this was the point of the game, April 17th, that was, not that I want to say Zed was in a bubble, but it was probably at its highest point in terms of when you take out the value in ETH, just looking at it, what it was in ETH. A good racer at that point was going for 6 or 7 or 8 ETH. So I almost looked at Dank as okay, I know 2 ETH is nothing to say to poo-poo over, but that was all I could get for my budget at that point.
Sure.
So I couldn't even. I remember Sour Tsunami was going for 8 ETH. Feather Song was going for 8 ETH. I got Silly Samwise for 5 or 6 ETH at that point. So like that was the price of the racers at this point. That when I got Dank, it was almost just I'm just trying to spend as little as I can to get some blood.
Right. I get it. Yeah. Very interesting story. Danshan, kind of switching over to you. I mean, you said you have over 100 horses. Can you pick a favorite? Do you have a favorite? How do you even begin with that?
Well, I mean, I got some great horses that are, some great track runners, but my favorite horse is always going to be and always will be Fire Strike. That was the first horse I bred. That was a winner. The horse is a U-shaped monster, owned C4 and C5 back in April. I mean, he just put me on the map.
Nice. Yeah, I'm seeing it's a 14% win rate right now, 951 odds, 32.5 ROI. Like that's very, very solid horse. Z9 Legendary Butte, like that's really nice.
Yeah, and I bred that myself, so that was the big key.
That's such a fulfilling feeling. I just had a moment like that myself, and like it makes it that much more exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go through my barn, you can see everything has the Fire name now. I mean, everything carries the Fire. Fire is the brand.
I like it. Any potential plans to kind of branch that out at all?
I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what's gonna eventually happen with how things are going to go. With once we lose odds, you kind of lose me. I'm a line originator in my real life, and not having odds is really going to really change the game for me.
Can I ask you a question to that? Danshan, do you think there's any way for your skills to be even more utilized in an oddless system? Is there any way for you to look at historical data, look at new horses that perform well against the horses that we do have odds for, and that could allow third parties to each come up with individually their own odds, and then based on how those look, the cream of those can kind of rise to the top?
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, my job, and I'm a line originator. I model sports for a living. I mean, I just modeled the shot put in the Olympics. There's no odds there. There's no historic history. These guys are 16-year-old kids that have never thrown a shot put professionally. You have nothing to go on. So I'm going to have a huge advantage. When you take away odds, I'm going to naturally have an advantage, and I'm going to find some way to use some kind of correlation, use the deviation, get some regression to the mean. I should be able to do discovery a lot faster than the average person, I would assume.
Where do you kind of see that direction going? Like, is there one thing right now at this time that really kind of jumps out to you as far as like, hey, this is, odds are being taken away. This is the path that I see forward as like, this could be another big metric to look at.
Well, I think the number one thing that we have to look at right now, I'm saying in the post-odds world,
sure.
The number one thing that sticks out to me is the percentage of times they're below the population's speed. When you're looking at the times, I want to know the number of times a horse is below the population mean. If a horse is 30% of the time below the population mean, it's probably going to be a pretty good horse. Now, this
Yeah.
would be the assumption that times are working perfect, that everything matters, and I'm not sure. I'm not there yet. I couldn't.
There are a
say.
lot of pieces to that puzzle, for sure.
Yes.
So, kind of looking at that, like odds being taken away, affecting racing, um, and you have a lot to kind of deal with the kind of analytics odds aspect of things. Danshan Zook, you just won the digital derby. Like what is success mean for you guys? How do you win Zed? Zook, are you retiring? Is this why you came on tonight? Are you done? Like what does winning for both of you guys look like?
No, I mean, I'll just like, and this is such a bad thing to say. The reason I joined High Horse Stables was because I started to care less and less about my individual horses. I'm sorry, Dank, and I'm sorry, Silly Samwise. And I started to get obsessed
Earmuffs.
with the community and stuff that I'm doing there. So yeah, it was great to win, to have Dank win that digital derby. And I think it's interesting because me and Danshan, we might not have the same answer, but I think both of our answers will actually mean that success has nothing to do with what happens on the track. It's a lot of different ways, and his is probably breeding, but mine is more so just right now. I'm obsessed with getting as many new users as possible. I think everyone that's actually here right now, our success is defined the same. And if we're having this conversation in 12 months, we've all been successful because it means we've done the job that we've needed to do to get the active users to triple, quadruple, 5x, whatever we need to sustain the amount of horses that Jay said is going to go to 1 million in 12 months. So success can be defined in many different ways. But I think just being here in 12 months and having a stable that's worth anything means that we're all going to be successful down the road.
Absolutely. Danshan, what about you?
I think that Zed has a lot of growing pains to go through still, and I think that we're probably somewhere right now where it's hard to project anything. They're talking about ELO, we're talking about speeds, times. I mean, there's so many different things going on. To me, I think we need a new president. We have no middle class. You can buy a horse for 0.1 or you can buy a horse for 10. So I think somewhere whatever's going to happen is going to have to be something that's going to fix that middle. Mm-hmm. There needs to be those people that are buying the 0.4, the 0.5, the class 3, class 2 racers. That's part of, it's the community. Everything has to work. You can't just have the bottom. You can't just have the rich. You can't just have the poor. You got to have the middle in there too. And we're completely missing that. There is literally no such thing as a 0.5 buyer right now.
How do you see? Sorry, Golden Glow. Go ahead.
I was gonna say he's actually correct with that. Because what happened is right now, and Ebs, I see you in chat. How you doing tonight? Right now, what it is until they expand the class system, which I think is going to be the first thing, it's too convoluted. So idealistically, if we had 10 classes, and I hate putting this one out, but idealistically, if we had 10 classes and the classes points were separated by 30 instead of 20, there would be a smaller yet bigger field of competition amongst classes. Because there are horses that should be way on the bottom, which should still be able to run for maybe you could put it down to $1 and $2 races, but there can't be $5, $10, and 15 races for those people down there who have the cheap horses. And then you slowly increase the buy-in and the buy-out when you get down to class 1 to the horses that will never class down as far as it goes right now. Like you got horses with 600 or 700 points that they're never coming down anywhere. And so you got a horse like that, you want to run it and you want to try to make some money. But then you got horses that are average that would hover in between class 4 and class 3, but there should be something in the middle. And that's why I said there should be 10 classes. Like you have horses that are in class 1 that shouldn't be in class 2, but shouldn't be in class 1. There should be a middle ground. And so hopefully, in the future, they expand the classes just enough to make it so that everybody can compete against horses that they're able to win against or lose against, but not always lose or always win, or
Well, I mean,
always placed in the middle.
I think when you think of the, like I don't know if everybody, I mean, a lot of people know, but I've designed that ABC tiering for entry fees, and A being the, the over $5, B being the $5 races, and C being the 250 races. I think that needs to be expanded A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L.
100%.
And I think that you need to make some incentive for these guys. You got guys like Arbitrage Racing, you got guys like Good Boy Racing, you got guys like, and these guys are huge to the system. And if you're not giving them some sort of incentive to pay 10 ETH, 15 ETH a horse, there's no reason for them to do it.
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
And if they can go buy a horse for 0.1 that can compete for $100 pot, why the heck are they paying 10? And they're not going to. They're just not going to. The fame is cute, and everybody loves a little fame, having the top horses in Class 1. But at the end of the day, a lot of the people that are the big players in this are playing for money.
Yeah,
So you have to take that. And you have
You got Evs in chat jostling you right now, Danshan. He can't come. He goes into Vegas and does things that would get him banned from casinos if they knew who he was, and he's online. So I understand completely why his face isn't showing. So, like, I'm still a different way.
I'm still going to the counter and placing bets, and there's no way that anybody can know who I am.
Totally understand that. Totally understand that.
We also have to remember that they're virtual horses. Everything in terms of value can, at the end of the day, be looked at by the fact that they're assets, and the race classes are not made up right now to have these 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, these middle class horses. Right now, it's not set up to make your money back on those over time through racing. You either are going to pay, like we're saying, it's either the top or the bottom. You're going to pay that top money for what even though that is drastically decreasing right now as well, or you're going to take the lottery ticket. We got to find ways to incentivize the C2, the C3, the C4. I'm not even sure like just dividing the class systems is enough. I think that's a start, but we still need to incentivize people to be in those class systems themselves. So once you create those, I'm not sure what you need to do to get people to be in Class 6, to want to be in Class 4, to want to be in Class 8. But there needs to be things within each class to make it of somewhat valuable.
Yeah.
Well, that comes with the fees.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't race for $50 in C5 and then turn around and race for $50 in C1.
Exactly. It needs
if
to be like $1,000.
C5, you need to be playing for dollars.
Yep.
If you're in C1, you need to be playing for $500.
Yep.
$300,
yep.
$700.
You could even be playing for pennies in C5 for like you can be playing for like 25-cent races in C5 if you want, and C1s should be 0.25 ETH at the minimum or something where you have to you're really putting thought into what class you're running, and only the big dogs will run in the big ones, which kind of leads. It's not just my theory, but I called it trickle up Zookonomics a few months ago. You start raising the prize pools at the top and introduce some sort of fatigue. The top horses will just go into those horses. If you also make the other races small enough where that doesn't come into I can win some 50, I'll win the 50 over going for the 1,000. But if it's like 25 cents, you're leaving those for the little dogs. Then the vanilla beans and those type of horses will only race in C1.
Well, the other thing you got to consider too is that we've expanded. We got 78,000 horses.
Yeah.
We have 5 classes. We were racing 5 classes with 3,000 horses.
Yeah.
There needs to be 10, 15 more classes here. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, you just got to start out originally. There should be at least 10, 15 classes right now. And there should be zero incentive to want to stay in C5.
No,
if there's any incentive to stay in the bottom class, then the game is not going to grow.
So you're against U horses?
No, I love U horses.
Okay.
Every horse I have is a U horse.
And I think too, like with that expanding out like the entry fee, it increases the accessibility of it too. So like if you don't have a lot to get into Zed and you still want to play, like hey, I got this new horse. I don't have a huge bankroll to race it, and I want to risk a $5 race. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I accidentally clicked a $10 race. I've done that a handful of times
Yeah.
when I'm sure everyone else has. But like to know kind of you're in that kind of safe space, I think is really important. Or even like, even if you do have that bankroll, just to like get started on that smaller point. Entry value I think is really important, and then it just adds a whole nother layer of strategery to kind of your race selection, to how you want to race this horse. Hey, I could be moving up in class, and that comes with greater risk, greater reward. Am I going to be able to hang in that class? What is that class going to look like? But I could also have a much greater financial incentive to do it, and I think that's really appealing and like really exciting, especially for the growth of the sport.
You need to earn
The
the
platform.
right to race for big money. And if your horse can't race for big money, it shouldn't be anywhere near the big money horses.
Yes. And this, in no way are we all actually criticizing Zed. In case like there's people that are watching that are new. Now we actually, what we're saying is we want more. Like in essence, we want more. Want more options. We want more races. We like this is such a great platform that the people at the top and the people at the bottom just want to make sure that there's more of everything so that people can race and have fun, either winning, losing, placing second or third or fourth with the pity point. And
Hateful.
we just, that's all it is. This isn't actual criticism on Zed. It's
No.
the platform in and of itself. 6 months ago had less than 10,000 people, and we've grown at a very explosive rate for the amount of money that it costs to get into Zed and the things that you have to go through to get into Zed. So this is by no means a criticism. So anybody who has any ideas, I see the chat going. Moo Moo's 177. You're making excellent points, and so
Moo
with
Moo, my
that,
friend. All right. I got some
eh,
allies around here.
and so this if you have a point to make, they do watch everybody's streams and they incorporate what sounds good. So like this is just we got two prolific people in the chat, and I'm happy right now myself, and we're talking about Zed, and we're not being overly critical. I was pissed off a couple months ago, like no, and some of us were, but I stuck around. This is a great place to be.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think we just want the platform to be more accessible.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's one. I also think it's fair to criticize. It's
Yes.
very fair to criticize Zed. I would say a lot of things that we said tonight were criticisms, and that's fine. If I didn't care about Zed, I wouldn't criticize it. I'm not
Right.
criticizing any of those, non-utility avatar pictures, arts that I don't like. I just move on to the next one because I have no.
The important point of what you just said is one of the things that keeps me attracted to Zed and keeps me close to Zed. Zed made a lot of mistakes. We've had problems with drops. We've had blah, 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 blah. I can go on and on. But what I love about Zed and what keeps me so bullish on Zed is the fact that the community gets riled up. There's people that care. There's people that are involved. There's people that have interest. There's people with passion. I love that. That's what keeps me here.
Yes.
And a lot of the people with passion that you hear every day aren't whales, which makes me even more excited. It's people that have one or two horses and are freaking out about decisions that, sometimes I want to sit back and be like, it's not, it's let's just move on. But then you could turn on the other edge and be like, wow, people are getting up in arms and they have one elite that can't even run, and they're like harping on things that might not even impact their game for 12 months. Like that's legit. That shows you what an NFT does, having ownership of an asset, no matter how big or how small. It's like there's people that have these little houses and there's people that have these huge mansions, and these people are so proud of their little houses. They're showing up to the town board meetings every week because they have that sense of ownership, and that's the community that this is made. And to MJ's question before, like what's the success of Zed? I think to create class systems where I understand that there needs to be levels of tournaments that maybe not everyone could feel the what we felt winning with Dank, but there should be more than one way to get that feeling. You should be able to feel that way if you have a strictly C5 horse or strictly C4 horse or strictly C3 horse. Maybe not to the amount of winning an overall digital derby, but like if you show people that it's cool to have a C5 horse because they're C5 tournaments and maybe they're not lucrative in prizes, but people in Twitter are talking them up, people in Discord now know these horses' names, then people may be willing to pay that 0.4, that 0.45, that 0.5 to get horses involved in those tournaments. So it's just opening as many different avenues to create as many different champions as possible, because that's what, everyone at the end of the day wants a piece of that, even if it's just a little.
You need to create an incentive for these people. You need to want to get your horse out of C5 into C4 for a reason. And that reason obviously is probably going to be monetary, but at the same time, it's the things you're talking about. If a horse can qualify for C4, okay, now he can go to the Digital Derby 7.
Yes.
If a horse can qualify for C3, now he can try $20 games. Or he can go into a Digital Derby 5, which has $1,000 prize pool.
Maybe you get branding on the side of your horse.
True incentives.
100, as sad as it is to say, we're still in a part where stuff follows money. If Zombie Boy's next donkey tournament is more lucrative than the Digital Derby, and he's going to continue to run those tournaments, then for right now, if you're building a racing stable, donkeys become more lucrative. Right now, we're in this ecosystem that we can create whatever we want. So if we're going to create tournaments that show off C4, that show off C5, why wouldn't there be sponsors on those horses if just someone out there is to pick that specific class to show off that day? And I'm telling you, those horses are just as cool. Those owners are just as cool as a lot of the horses in C1. And that's half the battle, having these, like you guys do every Sunday. You have the owners come up and talk about their horses, talk about the stories. That's half the battle. And there's those type of people in the community in all different classes, not just the 16 of us that were in the Digital Derby.
100%. Accessibility is huge. It's sense of community along with that is huge.
Yes.
To your points, I couldn't agree more, Zook. Couldn't agree more.
Everyone was crowding me. My DMs and my comments were flooded, and seeing the community rally around that event and just the winner is something that it makes me so bullish that I'm hoping every week someone else gets to feel that way, that's making so many friends and people know who their horses are, and it's just you can't be anything but bullish after the Digital Derby.
And one thing that I think is great about Zed, to your point, you've reached a great high, and I want to talk about the Digital Derby a little more soon, but I love about Zed is that there are so many, and Danshan, we were talking about this at kind of the beginning, there are so many micro accomplishments that create just this overall macro feeling. So entering your first race, getting your first horse, entering your first race, winning your first race, moving up in class, moving down in class, selling a horse that, oh man, do I regret that? Do I not regret that? Breeding successfully. What did you get? That, kind of all those things coming together. There's so many just really special moments within Zed that I just think make it an excellent place to be. Kind of circling back to the Derby, I got some questions for you on that. So it was a great feeling. So can you describe it? Can you go into that? What was that like for you?
One of the best feats in my life is Dank beating RP in a 2200. I don't know if these stats are correct, and you can fact check me, but I have a message from Jack and Zaza saying that Dank may have lost. I think Dank lost the first 100+ races to RP, and that was one of the first times that Dank has ever won a race that RP was in, and Dank didn't win that race, but in the heads up specific, I guess that's the one time it did. So that's an incredible feat. I think that finally getting to see these horses go up against each other and then build it up created these storylines for horses that they will become the athletes that we all hope they do. They were strategizing the 14, 18, 22. You have to figure out which horse you want to put at each. And if people know Dank, 1400 was clearly her worst. So we were all sitting there. If we get past this one, we have a good chance to make it. And Vanilla Bean got 12th. We got 11th. So that's another beautiful thing about tournaments. Like beautiful thing about tournaments. If you look at Vanilla Bean's and Dank's graph, it's literally almost the same, except Dank finishes in 11th, a little more than 12th, and Vanilla Bean finishes in 12th, a little more than 11th. And that's legit how that race finished out.
18. I don't want to interrupt you too much.
No, continue. Go.
An interesting point about what you just said right there is, if tournaments become big, do U-shaped horses really suffer?
Yes.
Because man, when you see main event finish 15th, did you say main event finished 15th? That the horse walked the last 300 meters?
It doesn't matter what type of tournament either, because if you do a bracket style, a U-shaped horse may win, and then the next round you'll catch it on the back end U. Or if you do any type of scoring that 12th is negative, 1 is positive, it'll come out to expected value of 0. So if tournaments become the more lucrative form of racing,
man,
pity points.
We could see A-shaped horses just
pity points are no longer pity points 100%. Are no longer pity points. We'll have to rename it at that point. But 1800 we did Princess of Power. Princess of Power, another great horse. I think we came in 9th. They came in 11th. That's when people started talking shit to me. That's when people were like, all right, you got a 9th, you got an 11th, like you're not doing anything. Then we beat Zombie Boy. That was a big race for me. Honestly, Zombie Boy is a good friend of mine. You asked Danshan the question who he looks up to in this community.
Yeah.
Me and my friends, when we first joined, we used to text each other, we want to beat Zombie Boy. So this is our first week on Zed. Zombie Boy was known at that point. There was only a few thousand horses in the environment. The Z10 Genesis Buterin that was killing everyone in C1. Me and my friends were obsessed with beating that horse, then becoming really good friends with him over the summer, then playing him in the semifinals. It was a crazy full circle. Interesting story about that. He also had Big and Tall in the tournament. He put Zombie Boy in our race, but he put Big and Tall in another 2200 at the same time. Big and Tall won that race. So if he put Big and Tall in my race, it might have been different. Then we played Good Boy Racing. I've said this yesterday. I'll say it out loud again. I'd say it to their faces. I believe in the it factor. I hated them going Rendezvous Peak in the third race.
Yeah.
I just believe if you go Barack, you got to let Barack finish it on the racetrack. Yeah. Odds don't lie. Rendezvous Peak at 2200, you're never going to say anything about that decision. But if it was me, I would have had Barack in that third race.
Wasn't he actually in the race itself?
What?
If I'm not mistaken. Who actually won the race? I thought it was Barack.
Oh, I hope. I don't know if that was the case. I don't know how their rules were, if other horses were allowed to be in the tournament. It might have been, especially because that was at the end. And we ran that race at 4 a.m. I was up. I had to set an alarm, and I was up running that. But no, it was fantastic. Okay. It was.
Was it Y2K in every single race?
Might have been.
No, I mean not as the competitor, but I mean actually in the field. I must have seen that horse 20 times in that tournament.
Yeah, all I can't say. I mean, Sean putting on for the community and the job that they did, it was ran so professionally to a point where they were just submit it in this race, go ahead. If you won that one, they literally put you in another group chat with that person. It was seamless. It was as easy as possible. I think, like you were saying, Golden Glow, you want to see almost an NCAA type tournament style. And I think when the wait times get closer, they will definitely be able to pull off something like that, similar to what they were able to pull off with this 16 teams.
That is the best thing I have seen in Zed since I've been in Zed.
It was ESPN too.
Was amazing.
Yeah,
that production was amazing.
Productions were just absolutely off the chart. It was
crazy.
It was beautiful.
And the stuff that they had. Sorry, I'm sorry to keep cutting you off.
No,
MJ.
You're good. You're good.
They've been planning this for a long time, and about a long enough time. I don't want to tell too much of a backstory because that's for Sean and them to say. But a long enough time where there was about every single major race change that's happened to the racing ecosystem has happened since they started planning this. So when you think about the money that they put into it and the people that they got and the amount of changes that they had to deal with, literally up until the day before the tournament started for us and we were paired up against our matches, Zed made changes to the ecosystem on that day. Like the fact that they were able to pull it off, like you guys think that was amazing. That was them being able to do like 20 to 25% of what they're ultimately going to be able to do pretty easily with those hands on deck.
Yeah, huge shout out to East Stars Studios, as well as Sean Versal. I see him popping around in chat. He streams during the week. He has a Zed Bets that he does. It's a lot of fun. It's free. So definitely check him out. He was on the Digital Derby yesterday as well. So
He was the one getting whipped, honestly.
So Zook, were you always going to race Dank, or was there ever any horse that you considered?
My stable convinced me to race Dank in the 1400. I wanted to race Silly Samwise.
Whoa.
I wanted to race Silly Samwise in the 1400. And realistically, I mean, we couldn't do worse than last, which is what Vanilla Bean did, so we might have still moved on. But you have to remember, as much as you're not a numbers person, so sometimes you can't let your heart get in the way of the head. And if you look at Dank's C1 1400 meter stats, there's just no question. So Dank was always going 18, always going 22. Had to be convinced by Michelle, Brian, and Bunshu to put in Dank at 14, but was with it. And I knew if Dank won, there would be more lore for a horse that did it all by herself over a stable. And I think we found that to be certain.
Love it.
There's
Love it.
There's got to be private games soon. There's got to be private races.
Party mode.
This is
Yeah.
crazy.
They did say they were working on that in the announcements. I would like to say that
Man, I can't wait to just spank on that ponyplug Zook stuff all day long, man.
Danshan,
From morning to midnight.
Danshan, when party mode becomes a thing, anytime, any day, any place, for the community, for whoever we want it to do streamed anymore, we will have one-on-one races.
Pay-per-view, baby. $29.95.
More than Mayweather McGregor.
yeah.
But go ahead, Golden.
Okay, so I was gonna say me personally, I think everybody was a fan of the announcements that they just did. Because that's like patch notes. If you play any other game in the world, when they update the platform, you get patch notes and it tells you what they've done. And they just did that, so it shows growth as a company. When they made updates to the platform, they told us what they were doing and then told us what they're working on. They normally just tell us what they're working on. They don't tell us exactly what they put in when they put it in. So kudos to Zed once again. I know I don't normally give Zed this much props, but man, this investment and this time spent is becoming more and more worth it.
So Zook, any plans to take Dank to Disney now that you've won?
I genuinely, I actually got a little mad on the call when they were like, Dank should sit. They were like making things about Dank's future, and I was like, no, you guys gotta know me. Like, I'm gonna be running Dank right after this. But then after I turned it off, I sat back and I reached out to my stable owners and my stable partners, and I was like, is this gonna turn into something where, to make it more lucrative, you're supposed to take Dank off the track to be invited to the next one? And ultimately, we're the four people where we're not going to be the ones to figure that out, because we're not going to put Dank on the bench. But I would be very interested to see if someone else was to win the next Digital Derby, the next big prize, if they were to bench their horse because of sponsorships, because of like show-up fees or whatever those are. I know there's a lot of big stables right now that are already not racing their horses besides the Digital Derby or besides big appearance fees such as that. So yeah, it's a thought, but something you learn in not even just the Zed space, Novus Earth, but the NFT metaverse space in general is one in the hand is a lot more than two in the shoe, because soon can become 11 months, 12 months, 13 months, 14 months. So what we know right now is Dank is an ROI positive runner on the track, and we got to go with that for now.
But I mean, don't you think that these A-shaped horses are really going to boom in value if tournaments catch on in
Danshan,
form?
Danshan, you're talking to someone that's has ran their fourth tournament last week and has been screaming to the hilltops that fourth place isn't a pity point. 5th place is good, 6th place is going to be okay, and those U-shape 9, 10, 11, 12, the people that place a lot more 9, 10, 11, 12, and this is where you can use MJ Stables' tool for, look at that middle third for tournaments and look at the value that you can find there, and look at those horses that now have a lot higher percentage than the back end of the U when the premium is put on the back end of the U. But I just won 1.75 ETH yesterday, and no one's won a bigger prize pool than that. And that was a head-to-head tournament that an A-shaped horse would have an advantage in.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to eventually see the value in that. I think we're going to see a little shift to where maybe those horses aren't grinding out, 2 ETH a year, but they're making 2 ETH a month in tournaments.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Thanks
Really
for the plug,
fast. There are a lot of ways to approach the Zed platform. How? I'll start with Danshan because we just went for Zook for a while. How do you approach race the platform? Are you more of a racer or more of a breeder or somewhere in between? Everybody just thinks about you as a breeder, but how do you view yourself?
I love to race. I flat love to race. I love to race. I love the odds. I love looking at the field. I love analyzing it. Racing is what I do. The only way to race better is to breed. I mean, the Genesis game is over. I mean, you can either go big wallet and buy champions, or you got to learn how to breed champions.
So do you think the legendary market is undervalued?
I think the legendary market is overvalued. I think bred horses are toys, except for the 3 that are good. I think the bred horses should basically go from the G race to the trash can. And the 3 champions should make it.
You're right.
So they go G race, trash can, and you just keep going until you get the one. And that's the way the game should be played. I think that, our goal is to breed champions.
Sure.
We're not here to breed C4 U-shaped horses. Our goal is to breed champions.
So kind of to counter that, I don't disagree with you at all, but like kind of just to counter that, one, we see so many cases of Griffey odds being vastly different than performance odds, whether that be for the better or for the worse. In addition to that, we've also seen that horses that aren't necessarily great racers be decent breeders. So kind of going off of that, and that may have been just, kind of a high level overview of what you were saying, but like, could you be potentially missing out on some breeding potential by trashing a horse, so to speak, too soon?
The statistics say that you got to breed with Genesis. The farther you get away from Genesis, the farther you get away from Nakamoto, the farther you get away from Z1, the chances of having a successful championship horse drop significantly and quickly. Mm-hmm. You're going to have one champion that's a Z40, and you're going to have 100 champions that are a Z3. I mean, you cannot. I look at these horses. I had what's that horse? Luke Starkiller. That was a great horse. It was a Z8 Finney colt. He's not. He can't produce. He can't produce champions. I'm sorry. It's just not something that the way the game is set up and designed that he can produce champions. And that's why I have 70 Genesis horses, because I believe you got to come back to the Jenny to get the money.
Yeah. Like that. And kind of to your point of like the drop off, just looking at Zed Run's site, Nakamoto has up to 95% genotype purity. So that's your Z1, your Z2. Then going down to Buterin, Z8, 9, 10, that genotype purity drops all the way down to 58%. And we know that genotype goes all the way to 268. So that drop off is significant in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, Z2 Legendary is the best lotto ticket you can buy. The second best lotto ticket is the Z4 Zabo Legend. The Zabo Legend and the Z2 Legend is the best lottery ticket you can buy. The second best lottery ticket you can buy is a Z4 Legend. The third best is a Z3 Nakamoto exclusive, which is basically just 3 ones punched together.
How are you constructing that? Oh, you said Z4 Zabo or Z4 Naka Legendary?
Z4 Zabo.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, the Z4 Zabo is also very, very, very underrated, and the stats show. I had my boy Ender look it up that the Z4 Zabo, again, it might be a small variance, has outperformed the Z4 Nakamoto Legendary pretty handily.
Yeah, because
their
if you look at
stats.
the types and you take the Nakamoto's, you got a Z1 and a Z2. The break off from a Z1 to a Z2 is huge. You take a Zabo and you go 3-4, the break off from a 3 to 4 is huge. You take Finnies and go 5 to 7, a 5 and a 7 are completely two different animals. 8 to 10, Buterin, the same thing. And 8 Buterin is a lot better than a 10 Buterin. So those Z numbers make a huge difference. So when you're going to be mixing these together, we want to always mix the better of each type to get them together. The two best horses that Buterin and Nakamoto make are a Z9 Legend. That's a Z8 and a Z1. You take the best of the both and put them together.
In something kind of speaking to that too, and the analysis I've done, I found a really big drop off, and I haven't checked recently, but a few weeks ago, consistently, right around the Z21 mark, is where things start to go haywire and start to become a little less consistent. And I think at that point kind of speaks to just like how much you can mix and match in those higher varieties of things.
At some point, people are going to stop just pounding glue together. At some point,
Yeah.
people are going to start saying, hey, you know what, this 0.03F that I'm blowing every day, trying to get some kind of lotto ticket that's a ridiculous cross Buterin Z69 or something, that stuff is going to end. The people are going to burn out on that. I mean, you're always going to have people experimenting playing games, but anybody that's serious about the game, they're going back to the Jenny.
So, kind of speaking on this subject, for those of you who don't know, Danshan's done a lot of work in at least kind of evaluating breeding and bloodlines. You even have a tool associated with that. Want to give you a chance to kind of speak to that, not necessarily asking you to give up any secret sauce or anything like that, but maybe give kind of an overview of your tool, kind of what are the things you're looking at, how do you factor certain things in, and what's kind of the overall goal and what you're trying to achieve with it.
I think the thing is that I think there's three essential parts of breeding. I think the most important and number one part is I believe that certain combinations, whether it be the Zed code, whether it be the breeding code, whether it be how the system is set up, I think certain combinations just seem to outperform others. For example, a Z12 Legendary Finny is one of the best bred horses there is. Why? I don't know. And when you put those certain combinations together, and then, so that's like step one. And then this next thing I do is I look at these bred race horses. I look at their quality of their offspring. And I don't do it the way other people do it. Other people do it the way they do it is they say, oh, this horse made it to class 1, so he must be a strong breeder. No. That don't mean nothing. I look at what the horse does very early in its career. G-race is important to me because you can't really mess that up too much. A trainer can't really ruin a horse in a G-race. So a G-race gives me a lot of good, valuable information. I can tunnel the information. I can dig deep into the fields. I can get a quality of a G-race horse after it's been G-raced a week, 2 weeks later to tell you how quality that horse is. It doesn't matter what the guy did with it next. Some guys will take a horse, put it in a G-race, it pulls a 7, and then they stuff it into class 2 into $50 pots. Well, that horse is going to look horrible. Anybody that looks at that horse from the surface, any computer program that looks at that horse is going to say, wow, this is garbage. That might be one of the best bred horses there are. So when you're looking at step 2 of my program, it's more of what quality are we getting out of the breeding horse? And then once we know the quality of the breeding horse, then we create a record for it, just like we do for racing. How well does this horse breed over and over and over and over again? It's very consistent. If you take a look, you can see a horse that breeds 5 odds G-race babies, he pretty much keeps breeding 5 odds G-race babies. It's not like they breed a 5 and then they breed a 40. If they do breed a 40 and you look at the other parent, you can see very quickly and very, very quickly that the other parent's the garbage. That the quality horse was still there and she made 3 or 4 5 odd G-race babies, but she made it with the one guy who pops out 40 odd babies, and now all of a sudden she's putting out a 20. So you got to see that breeding is almost the same as the racing algo. Either you're good at it or you're not. And either a horse is good at breeding or it's not. So that's step 2. Step 3, go back as close and as best you can get to that low Z, Nakamoto, Jenny. And as close as you can stay to that with a good combo with parents that produce good babies, you're going to have tons of success.
That's what I try to do with my latest breed, Gold War. Try to find some low Z. Try to find good performance and good offspring, and just try to like mesh that at a very very simplistic high level, of course. And I honestly, I'll probably admit that is a lot of luck, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the same kind of vein of thought that I was kind of thinking. So it's in a way kind of reassuring to hear that there is some success and some consistency behind that.
It's funny
Yeah,
because Stanley Studios for a while, for like months, has just been screaming at the top of his lungs that the only thing that he cares about when it comes to breeding is consistency. Consistency, consistency, consistency. When he goes and looks, and I'm not saying that is the only thing or he's right, but I'm now seeing more people say that along the lines like when Stanley, and for the horses he has, his breeding has been very successful. When you look at, some of the inputs that he literally just looks at what the parents have done in the past in terms of producing offspring. He doesn't care at all what they've done on the track. He doesn't look at win rate. He doesn't look at how many times they've won. He legit looks at every single offspring they've produced and just does a consistency factor in their mind. This horse has produced 10 offspring. Let me look a little bit deeper into each one quickly, and let me just decide in my head if I think, like, in my gut, you can just tell on a binary scale, is it or is it not? And maybe that's where the skill comes in. How people determine or define what a consistent producing breeder is. But I think more and more people are falling in line, what Danshan said and what Stanley does, of looking less into how good of a racer the parent is and more into that consistency breeding breeders aspect.
It's like
Go ahead, Golden.
for months before, because I know I was never gonna have the money to buy a breeder or buy a racer. I was like, I gotta breed, and so not to plug Poseidon's horse or Doopy's horse. So far, looking at the data, it appears that Wall Street has the best genetics in the game as a male Z1 Nakamoto, and Ducky Malin as a Z3 Zabo might have the best genetics as a female, just in terms of what they produce. And then you can look at their grandchildren and their great grandchildren. You can look at horses that they bred with that were donkeys, and their grandchildren that skipped a generation, and they're producing good horses. Like I know a lot of people were talking, like they talked about when we had ZG on, he was like breathless edging, like he can't breathe. That like you look at his children, you look at his grandchildren, and then the one child he had that good he bred with Ducky Malin. So that confirms what you see if you look at the patterns, and it's that some horses breed great, and that those genes carry on. Because you start to look at the genesis level of horses, and that are elites are exclusives, not just legendaries, but you can look at exclusives are elites, and you can see horses that have very good winning gene combinations at the genesis level. And so it's just finding the pattern and then executing.
yeah, and I hate to go past. I hate to. I play with the leads and crosses because it's cute and it's fun. But when I'm talking about a racer that I want to make that's going to be a good horse, I just can't leave exclusive. I haven't made it mentally past exclusive yet.
Well, two of the more successful horses, which were in the tournament. Well, we didn't get to see Steph Curry run, but we saw him main event. He was a very successful horse. Once again, he goes back down the Wall Street's line at the great grandfather level on Genesis. His father wasn't anything, but his great grandfather, which is Wall Street. And then on the other side, you have Reborn Racer and another, like these are good horses at the Genesis level. So when you look, you can get down to the elite level. It's just what's up at that Genesis level that you're combining, and what do they bring to the table? But
Well,
you also have,
but you don't
once
want to
again,
let go.
more
You
races.
don't want to let go. You don't want to let go of that elite. So if you get that elite like Steph Curry, you need to hold that elite. And the only way to hold that elite is to come back to my barn.
You can't hold it because they're males.
Well, but I'm
We
saying,
got
but
to
I'm
see
saying
what
you
happens
want to
at the
hold,
cross.
but you want to hold that elite level.
Yes.
And that's where the value of the Genesis comes back in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the value of you can't waste breeds. You can't waste sessions. So you have to come back to the right Genesis.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely,
But
absolutely.
But you can skip if you do mess up in your breeding. As long as you dump another Genesis, like say you're at the exclusive level, from the legendary level, and you think, hey, these two horses will combine to make a good horse, and they didn't. Those genes are still locked into that donkey.
Have you ever read my blue, red, black ball theory?
Yes.
And that plays a lot into that because, and I think you can really see it now that you're seeing that good racers can go 2 generation skips because a good racer is going to have a lot of red active power balls that makes him a great racer now.
Mm-hmm.
And a bad racer is going to have a lot less red balls, which would make more room for blue balls to come in. I love saying blue balls all day too. And when you add the blue balls back in, it creates more space for the blue balls, and that's where you get the generational skip and the pass down of those great racing genes from your grandparents or great grandparents.
For those of you that aren't familiar, could you kind of, I mean, you just kind of did a little bit now, but kind of summarize that whole concept for our audience?
I mean, I think a simple way to put it is a horse is born. You take a big barrel, you throw 100 black in there, you throw 10 red, and you throw 10 blue. Black is going to be your base power. A Z1 gets automatically, when he's born, immediately 5 black. A Z10 might get 1 black. And then they're going to get random balls from the pile. It's a binary distribution is probably what they really use in reality. But for simplicity, let's talk about. So they throw in, the balls randomly from the pot, and you're going to end up with your great racers and your great breeders. Your great racers are going to be the ones that got lucky and got a lot of red, and you're going to get your horses that got a lot of blue, and they're going to be your great breeders. Did that make sense? Or did I
Yeah, I think I'm following.
So when you pile all that together and you randomly are doing binary distro, you're throwing in these different colored balls to generate this horse's DNA profile. And a lot of horses are going to be the ones that are going to be really great on the track because they got a lot of red from the big pile. And a lot of horses are going to be great breeders because they got a lot of blue from the pile. And as a blue passes down, a blue becomes a red in the baby. A blue passed down is a red. So if a horse has red and blue and it has a baby, it can pass down the red or the blue. But a horse, but in the baby, they're going to get the blue as a red. It's kind of like how when you think of like
the flip.
Well, no, it's more like when you think of like a child of a mother has the hair of the grandfather.
Sure.
It's the same theory. You have the pass down of the blue ball from the grandparent to the parent, and then when the parent converts that, they pass that down to the grandchild.
Sure, so right, because then it is allowed to like flip over and become that colored ball, and it's allowed to express.
It creates the opportunity for when you do the binary distribution that there's something to actually flip. A lot of people want to call that mutation, but sure. It's let's don't go into mutation.
To break it down in layman's term, it's like I have a nephew, right? A 3-year-old nephew who looks like my grandmother. He doesn't look like either one of his parents, which is my brother or his wife. He looks like my grandmother, like exactly like my grandmother. And so that's that skipping the generation. That's the blue ball flipping back to a red ball, flipping back to a blue ball.
And I mean, and you can see it too in a lot of people. You can see it. There's dads that they have 3 kids, and all the kids look like the dad. They're like they all have all the dad's big nose, or there's some people that just carry stronger genes than others.
And I'm just gonna keep breeding. I'm just gonna keep breeding my horses and give people that are smarter than me more data points to draw conclusions from. Because people in the like I said earlier when I was like the future of Zed is, I mean, everyone's success is just being around in the future. People should also realize anything they do now has the chance to be that thing that like unlocks something. So there's a lot of people that have done stuff and read that stuff, but don't let something that hasn't been tried discourage you. If you think that something out there could potentially be something, and you have, obviously, don't waste money if you don't have the money, but you have the bankroll to try some things. Definitely test some things out there. I love that people are starting. The fact that I love that breeding's up and going is now there's more and more and more data points that are fitting closer to the variance that's needed for the races. For the odds, now we're finding that sample size in terms of breeding to, show theories on those numbers. So I'm happy that with the amount of breeding that people does, that just allows more and more samples to be in the population. And ultimately, there will be an answer to everything at some point. It just needs everyone in the community, working as one to try and solve it.
Yeah, I think coming together, I think knowledge share is really important.
You're breeding with other people anyway, right? Most of the time.
Yeah.
You're breeding with a lot of that's the fun of the game. That's why we don't really do breeding with ourselves anymore. I know a lot of theories do come down to keeping blood in your stable and focusing on it and doing stuff like that. And hey, if that's what you want to do it. I love that communication aspect of learning about the offspring through watching it with the parent that we bred with. A lot of my best relationships started by someone reaching out to me or me reaching out to them saying, you want to breed this horse with this horse? Then us keeping tabs on each other's offspring success going further to determine what our offspring combined, the meaning of that is. The game has really changed to the value of a lot of these horses is based on the success of breeding. So you want to do as much research and look into as many different theories and look at as many different numbers as you can, because as Blazer said, this guy or girl, I apologize, blew up our spot. There's value on the market in looking at these horses, lightly raced, no race, bad stats, that you can look into the offspring that they've produced. And very closely, everyone is going to put a premium on good breeders. So you could scoop these now and make passive income with them.
The thing you need to consider too, and you need to make sure you're doing this, if you have Genesis horses, please stop pounding them together with garbage and making a mess. You're ruining beautiful horses that probably can be great breeders. And by you just experimenting and doing all kinds of crazy stuff to them, you're ruining them. It's like running a horse in $50 pots that shouldn't even be in class 2.
And I think that's something that's really important too, is don't look into that if you're looking to, be serious about breeding. Is if you see a horse with some really bad offspring and some really good offspring, ask yourself why. Always take that extra step further. Is it the horse? How did, the other horses that kind of factored into this lineage, how do they perform? How do their offspring perform? It can be incredibly time consuming. I've spent many nights up way too late looking into it, but it can make a difference, and it can help you potentially, theoretically. I'm no expert on breeding, but make a little better decisions down the line.
See, that's why the blood tool is $19.95. You don't have to waste all that time. It tells you real quick.
Is that a price drop?
How much did he pay you to advertise that on this? How much?
No, but truly,
are you getting promo code? Promo code Zed Run Head, you get it for 25% off.
No.
Did you say $19.95?
It's a little bit more than that.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say I'll buy it tomorrow.
The thing with it is that you want to make sure that, like you just said, your point was really valid. And the thing is that I want you to take shots and I want you to try things and I want people to do things and experiment and have fun with Zed. But at the same time, you can ruin a horse. You can ruin a horse that has potential to be a valuable horse. I think of Zed horses as real estate. I think of Zed horses as like an office building. The asset is the horse. The racing income is the rental income. We don't race to create income for us. We show that the asset has potential to make income. But the real value in the asset is in the asset increasing value by how you take care of it, how you maintain it, the same as you do a rental property. I think
100%.
People should think of it as like a rental property, an apartment building, an office building. The asset is the horse. The income from racing is just rental income. The real value in the asset is what you do to make it look better, what you do with it, and believing in the market, and the market should increase the value of that asset when it comes time to sell it.
And that's why the market right now for racers is what it is, because the rent is so damn low that you're collecting that it's tough to see if the asset of these racers is
There's no value.
No, because
literally no value.
if a good racer, say you spend 2 ETH on a good race, like say you spend 2.5 ETH on a good racer, that's literally the worst investment you could probably make in Zed right now, and that's me potentially trying to sell good racers in the future and maybe doing the opposite of packing my bags. But it's exactly what he just said. It's salvage value. I mean, this one's a little different and maybe the same, but like at the end of the day, the value of the horse is what you can get in salvage value versus the income that it's making. If you have a racer that's great with $2.50 races, like I've wanted to buy racers that Michelle, my stable partner, has reached out to me and said, yeah, it looks great, but you realize we need 100 races to make back like 50% of what you're spending. Then, take the salvage value at that point. You're not really making anything. Maybe you're making like 10% in a year if you were to sell it, but what could 2 ETH be if you invested it somewhere in this community right now? So I agree with that racers right now, because of that analogy and because these assets, you have to worry about the appreciation and you hold them as it's appreciating versus how good the rent is, with the racing ecosystem not being good enough for more than less than 1% to thrive in it. The racing horses are going up in value, not quite high enough to match that drastic decrease in value.
Okay, so here's where I'm going to diverge.
Oh, yeah, no, please.
Really fast. And this is going to be counter to what both of you guys just said. All right, so I started off with a small amount of money, and I refused to put any more money into Zed, any more fiat currency. And so I started off with 2 horses. I had 2 horses a month ago. Then I got 4 horses. I ended up getting 4 horses, 2 Genesis, 2 legendaries. The 2 legendaries were what I was using to make money. I ended up selling the 2 Genesis and getting 2 racers.
Okay.
And I've raced. I didn't earn back the entirety of the amount of money that it would take to buy the racers individually, but I've got back within a month just racing class 4, class 5. I got them almost up to class 3, down class and back to class 5, started winning again. I'm like sitting around like 0.09 or something like that for spending 2 point on 0.2 on each racer.
See, but that's why I don't like you. Because
hold on.
if you can win money with a 0.2, 0.3, 0.4
That's true.
horse,
That's what he said at the top.
You're killing us that we're trying to make these class 2, class 3 killers.
I understand, but I'm sticking. I'm sticking.
The problem with the
I'm
whole
staying in class 4, class 5, and I'm making the money back. Like I ended up buying another horse.
But is
money to buy another horse.
it your example kind of? You said it's diversion, but isn't it the same? You bought a killer racer at 0.1, so why would you ever buy one at 3.5? Wouldn't you just keep going back to the well at 0.1 and take? Because you can go back to the well at 0.1 and get 35 of them instead of getting one for 3.5.
They're not killers. They're just slightly above average.
They're making 100% ROI.
No, I'm sitting at like a 30% ROI on
30% ROI is a killer.
Yes, but they're not killers. They're not killers. They're above average horses. Their averaging odds are 10% within class 4 and class 5. And a lot of people don't know, in between single digit odds and the lowest I've seen average are like 7.5 to about 13.5. You can get a 10% win rate if you race correctly.
Okay,
and that's from 7 to 13.5 average odds. You can, and that'll give you around 10% average odds. You can race a positive ROI horse. I've done it.
I agree, and I think that's great, and I think that takes skill. That shows skill in the game.
Yes, that is a skill.
And I think that's an important part of the game. And I think that it should be what it is, and I think it's great. I just wish that I could do the same thing with my class 3 horse, and I can make the same ROI, but make more money because it's a more valuable horse.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
It's
tough. That's a fair point. So there should, like we were saying at the beginning, there should be higher higher top races. I'm racing in between $5 and $2. I've run a $115 race that like we said, I accidentally clicked on. I was like, no, and I won it. So that increased the ROI of one horse by a lot.
And the other killer too is that I started getting into these $50, $100 races with some of my horses, and I was waiting a day or two for the race to fill.
Yeah.
I can't afford to have a horse that valuable sitting around for 2 days waiting for a race to fill.
You got to call people out on Twitter.
Where's the balance?
Call them out. Join this race. Because now you might want to make a Twitter for your specific horse that you're going to race. Because Crimson Chin, I see Keith in the chat. He had the Twitter. Ducky had the Twitter. There's a couple horses that actually have Twitter. So if you're sitting on like a $50 race, call them out. Call Vanilla Bean out. Vanilla Bean has her own Twitter. Like, oh, you're a coward. This race been sitting here for 10 hours.
You say that. I just looked at my thing and I seen Dez follows me.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, there's a horse following me.
Yeah.
I seen Dez follows me, and there's like a couple other ones that are really good. I think Mula follows me too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a really good point of like kind of the balance of the game. Class is one thing, fatigue, faster race times coming, but then also like it takes a while for some of these bigger dollar amount races to fill up. So if you have a great horse and that's where you want to race it because you can be profitable there, but then you're slowing down the time, which then theoretically could change your ROI, even though you are racing at those higher dollar values, maybe it'd incentivize going down lower. Because you could get in more races, and theoretically, you could potentially win more money.
Yes.
That's where fatigue has to be. That's where fatigue has to be, introduced a little bit, where they don't sneak away to these races, while they're waiting in one, banging out a bunch of C3s to win some money, while they just have themselves sitting in the $500 ones. So the fatigue will make it so, you got to choose, and that's what we said at the top. There has to be a bigger distribution on the extremes between the highest pot and the lowest pot to make it more and more and more of a difficult equation in these bigger horses' head to want to turn down those big races. You want to make it such a big discrepancy that they have to just put their horses in those big races and park it and let the rest of the people run around in C4 and C5.
But look at Golden. Like when you think of Golden here, he's talking about some skill that he has.
Yeah.
And he's being rewarded for that skill. And
quick shout out to Sean Versal, Zed Bets. I've been tracking who wins races. If you don't know, they're the streamer Sean Versal. He was the guy that got whipped. I'm gonna stop messing with you, Sean. During the Digital Derby, and him and Tumtee developed an app called Zed Bets. And if you go on, you could actually, if you follow patterns, you can see which horses are finishing first and last, and you can see the odds. And a lot of times, the horse with the best odds doesn't win. It wins a lot less than you would actually think. So if you're somebody who's betting in Zed Bets, then if you actually pay attention to who's winning, you'll be able to notice that, hey, I can get by with this horse in these races, because I don't even look now at who I'm racing against most of the time. I'll just look to make sure they're not over like 20-25%. Or if it's not a name I know, I'm not trying to race against killers. And then I'll race with every other horse, because we all know the name.
My point is that you can take what you do.
Yes.
And say you're making 30% on an average wager of $3.
Mm-hmm.
You can use those skills, whatever you're doing with Sean and blah, 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 whatever it is, you can use that in a $15 market. Maybe you have to spend 0.3.
Oh. Everybody
you can do that in a 12.
I know he's back. He's back.
Hey, Danshan, you broke up for about 5 seconds.
You got me?
Yeah.
Yes, we got you now.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, if you can do what you're doing in C4, C5 at an average wager of $5, I would like you to come buy my 0.6 horses that are bred well and ready to go, so that you can do that for an average wager, an average pot size of $25. And you can still maintain that same ROI and still use your skills, but actually make more money, and I make more money as a breeder.
Yes. Well, it's going to take
time. That's where
time.
the market needs to go.
It's going to take time. I think the future is probably going to be something like either Axis or Splinterlands, where you could rent your horses out. That would be something that's dope. Because like I just got another NFT project, Splinterlands, and I have cards, and I now sit back, make passive income. I just rent the cards out to other people at like 50 cents a day. Even though Zed would be a little bit more expensive, maybe like $25, $30 a day or something like that. But they could race them all, and it wouldn't go against your record. It would go against their record as a stable, not the horse's record. It's how I would design it. But hopefully, sometime in the future, we get something with stable managers.
Yeah,
I can't wait. The ecosystem is eventually it's gonna get to a place where you don't have to own a horse to be involved at all. Like in how in Axie, a lot of these scholars are saving up to get their own team. I can't wait till there's a place where people maybe they don't even wanna own an NFT. Maybe they do and they want to save up, but for either purpose, they just have fun with the game. They just want to play the game. Maybe there could be third-party things where you can put your horse up to rent, and for like nights, people can just run them with their friends. That's even different than someone running it for profit. There's going to be a lot of different ways. People are slowly starting to see it now that breeding has been around for a while. They're getting these horses, and they're like, damn, I can't look at them all by myself, because you realize it's a multiplier. That's what I've realized. Like, if you can look at 30 horses, let's say your max is 30 horses, two of you can actually look at more than 60. There's just a weird synergy that the more eyes allows you to look at more together. I don't know what it is, but I think that people are gonna need that, because they're ultimately never gonna be able to get the most out of their stable if it's just them sitting on 100 horses, 150 horses, having to place them, put them into the stud farm, find someone in the stud farm to produce an offspring. There's just way too much. It's just way too complex, but that's the beauty of it. And that's the reason that the community is thriving. And that's the reason why relationships have to be made.
Yeah. Hey, I see Zed Gazette talking about me here. Can we ask this dude a couple questions? I'd love to give him a little insight.
Well,
I think he left.
He actually walked off.
Good. I would love to talk
to him. Off and take a walk or something.
Well, we can get both of you guys up here in the coming weeks.
Okay, yeah, if you would like, I could simultaneously interview you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to have a nice, warm, pleasant conversation with this wonderful guy.
Keep it clean. That's all.
So here's a question for both of you. I'm new to Zed. I don't have a huge bankroll. I've got 0.3 ETH. How am I spending that money?
What you do right now, based on the world that we have right now, being a new person without a lot of skill and knowledge, get as many horses as you can get with that money.
So even if it's, are you optimizing for, breed blood Z, or is it just, hey, I'm going at the floor, just getting as much as I can?
I would say just if that's going to be your bankroll for the game, period, I would probably try to get one decent horse. If that's your bankroll to get a feel for it and to get started, I would say get 3 or 4 different horses, different breeds, different types, maybe a filly or two, a mare, and get a feel for the game. Learn the game with that 0.3. Use that 0.3 as an educational piece.
I think
I like it.
I agree with that. I would go a few. I wouldn't go that many. I would go for one premier one, whatever a premier one we would consider in a 0.3 bankroll, and then maybe add 1 or 2 besides that. If I could have a choice for the premier, I might want to try and get an exclusive female to hold that line. I know a lot of people that have been joining with that bankroll have been starting with the exclusive female to bulk up their stable. I was originally someone that was get as much of the floor as you can. I've slowly turned into the game is so complex. It's not the end of the world if you only start with 2 or 3 horses versus 5 or 6, because you can grow it out and you can be as successful. But I think we're both on similar patterns where I wouldn't divide it equally. I would try and get 1 premier and then 2 or 3 maybe just filler horses to fill up the stable.
We've got a question in chat. What does premier look like in that price range? You don't have to be totally specific, but
horses. He hasn't looked at a 0.1 horse in 5 years.
I would say probably 0.2.
Sure. Okay.
0.15, 0.2, and then I would spend the other two, and I'd get like 0.045, 0.05 horses that I saw today. That you can get some low level exclusives or elites there
Okay.
for like
Okay.
the 0.05 level. Yeah,
Sure.
Well,
Sure.
I think that if
sometimes
you
there's deals to be found. I missed out on like two horses. One because Open Sea went down. It's a horse named Improves Every Time. I had to bid in
yeah.
at point 0.19, and somebody else put a bid in, and then Open Sea fell off the planet, and I lost out on that horse. That horse is now for sale for 1.9 ETH, and it's a very good Genesis Buterin.
Damn.
Um,
You know, a good place too that you might want to look to for someone that's just starting to get into the game, they might want to look for some low odds G race horses. I think a horse that just ran a G race that got decent odds might be a good start. You're not gonna, G race odds can be everything. Yeah, I know a horse can go 4 odds in a G race and get 60s. I know the whole horror stories, but you probably got a better chance if you started out with maybe a horse that got a 5 or a 6 in a G race.
I would agree with you, but the only reason why I'm going to disagree is because I don't want to recommend that to new users. I feel like, unfortunately, those are the horses that are put at a vulturous premium on OpenSea, I find. So I do think that, yeah, there's definitely a way for more experienced people to take advantage of that market. But I think a lot of people coming in for their first horse might just see a low G rate or a 100% win rate in Griffies and actually get taken advantage in that aspect.
Oh yeah, I get taken advantage of
Yeah.
every day. I buy almost every 5 odds G race horse I can get my hands on.
we all know that.
we
Oh, I do have another question from the audience. It's from Zuwandi, and it says, "I'd like to hear what you all have to say about the concept of the theory. Some horses can perform in higher price races versus other horses."
Yeah, man. I mean, look at RP and Mula. RP just owns Mula. I don't understand how that works, but RP owns Mula. Every time they race, Mula just has to write a check.
Oh
There's
wow!
just, I mean, I was blown away, and that goes a little bit into the bands theory of how I think distance bands can mean even sometimes more than odds. But man, I mean, Mula's the best 2,400 horse on earth ever born ever, probably for the next 10 years, and just can't deal with RP straight head to head.
I didn't know that. Yeah, you do have the enemy binder, so you can look directly at that. You
yeah,
know,
Danshan, do you want to talk about some of your other tools?
I think the thing for my tools is that my tools don't necessarily are not user friendly. My tools look a lot like a lot of tough. I don't know. They're not that tough. I think my tools are really simple and basic, but they don't really give you the feel of, that comfy, nice, easy to use interface. I mean, I think the enemy binder was one of the greatest things I ever did, as far as Zed wise. I think the combine tool in my horse racing tool is phenomenal. I can't believe that I'm the only person that uses a combine. How many people race a horse at one distance? No one. I mean, it's so rare that you race a horse at only one's distance, especially with all these U-shaped horses that require an up and down button.
Right.
That's why my combine tool and my horse racing tool is phenomenal, because you put your down button, you put your up button, and you see how many points you're creating on per race average. You see what your win percentage is using both. Those are important factors that someone needs to look at. And my verse tool is phenomenal, where you compare, you look at the head to head matchups of Mula versus RP, or whoever versus whoever.
yeah, that's the. It says enemy binder on your website, so that's why I said that.
The enemy binder is phenomenal because what it does is it goes through and it takes all the horses that you've raced against where your odds have went up 1.5 times your mean average odds in the same race distance tier and fee. So if your odds go up over 1.5% at the times, it takes the favorite from that race and adds them to your enemy list. So that when you use my live racing tool, it'll highlight them and show you, hey man, don't get in this race. That dude that messes up your odds is here.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that. Very cool. Very insightful. I appreciate you taking like some time to go a little deeper on that, because I know there are some people that kind of struggle with the UI, but also just kind of the general understanding. So to hear a little more about it and hear it firsthand is nice.
Yeah, and my DMs are always open. Anybody has any questions, you can always hit me up. I answer a zillion a day.
Very cool. Very cool. So we're running a little long on time here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Did you have any other questions, Golden?
Um, it's your favorite question. Do you guys have any superstitions when it comes to Zed? Do you put on like a special hat before you enter your race? Um, any type of just traditions or anything that you've done?
Wow, that's a good question, and I'm trying to think if there's.
I got one. If you look at my races and you look at every single horse that I own, I'm in gate 1 every time.
Okay,
I end up
okay,
in gate 2. I'd rather die.
that's fair.
So when they put gate preference up, you're gonna be screwed if you keep doing it.
If you don't want to
I'm
race
just,
against
I'm just going
Danshan,
to be
pick gate
trading
1.
horses all day until I get horses that are good in gate 1.
That I guess that my super. I always go into gate 4, and if gate 4 is taken, I go to the closest one to gate 4 that's over it. So I look for 5, 6, 7, 8, but I'll always look for gate 4. When I was just by myself in my stable and I was only running my own horses, I watched every single race for months. And if I didn't watch the race, I wouldn't let myself, as like a punishment, I wasn't allowed to look at how my horse did. So really from like April to July, I watched every single race that I ran, all in 3D. But I don't really consider that a superstition. But the gate in 4, I would probably do. And I never raced 2 of my horses in the same race.
Interesting.
Yeah, never raced 2 of my horses in the same race. I know a lot of people do it from an ROI numbers perspective. I want every single horse that I put in the race to have a chance to win. And if you put 2 in a race, you're automatically seeding that point. And I know ROI wise, it might not make sense, but I just want to win every race I'm in.
See, I think, because, I know y'all know me in the pony plug. I'm always there.
Yes, sir.
I could have sworn if you put, I think it was Lucky Jack.
Lucky Jack puts like 4 horses in a race. So like he's in like a different, he's not even, he has so many horses that like the only way he can race is to put 4 in a race because he has so many. But like he does it, Doofy does it. Some of the big guys where it's like if you put Ducky and another one of Doofy's horses in a 1400, he probably is getting positive ROI from those 2 horses over time. So it may make sense, but I like to win. And if you put Dank or Silly Samwise in the same race, I'm already saying that one can't win, and I just hate that feeling.
Well, it's great when you get second and third.
Yes,
and you do it.
yes.
It's great.
But there's actually,
not second and third, but first and second.
There's actually a little strategy to it, though.
There is.
If you take a solid U-shaped horse that's going to come in first or 12th, and if you go on what I don't know if a lot of you guys have heard my channels theory, but if you get a channel that's not good for the U-shaped horse and he's actually on the down channel in this race, there's a lot of horses that are automatically on the up channel in his down channels. So if you had 2 that could combine together well, you could guarantee that your super horse U-shape either wins or your secondary backup horse that's on a different channel is going to come in second and third and at least keep your money in the house.
I wonder if you're doing something with calculation, and I'm not, these are for the numbers people, if you're doing something with a calculation of deriving if it's a positive ROI to put 2 horses in the same race, don't you have to do it over don't you have to be committing to kind of putting those 2 horses together over a set period? You can't just be picking and choosing when to put those 2 horses in, or else it just is kind of random, right?
Well, I would like to, if ultimately in a perfect world, if I had a distance horse or a sprinter that was a U-shaped monster, I would want him to be in a race, and then I'd want a quality horse that maybe doesn't run quite as strong, that maybe doesn't spike at 1600 and doesn't spook, be in that race with him as well. That would be more your insurance ticket, and let the big horse do his thing. And when he doesn't feel like doing his thing, that other horse is going to probably be in good shape, because if the spikers and the distance specialists are having their bad streak, he should be able to hit. If that makes any sense.
No, it does make sense. And what you know from normal horse racing is even in the biggest races there are, a lot of times there's more than one horse from the same stable or owner or trainer in the same one. So it makes sense. I've just never been about it. As prize pools get bigger, it almost draws you in more where you want to put more in for, even though it's counterproductive. But if you do have the bankroll and it is a bigger race pool, you almost want to ensure that you get your money back with a third place in some facet. But yeah, that's just a superstition of mine. But yeah, Golden Glow, Lucky Jack puts sometimes him and Doofy have done have with their multiple stables have just done races with themselves.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Like class 4.
Like Griffins, like even just Griffins of like 6 different stables. It's nuts.
Yeah, they're great.
It's nuts.
Speaking of which, and so I put Danshan's Twitter and his website into the chat real fast. I'm gonna plug the ponyplug. They moved to Tuesdays and Thursday nights, or the Tuesdays just Fridays.
Tuesday and Friday. We were doing Know Your Horses. I mean, we were doing Wednesdays too, but we were kind of like not wanting to do 3 for a while. And Know Your Horses, I think, is starting the Wednesday stream. So
you gotta have something to fill my time up, because I was and like no,
and I can't. It would be disrespectful to stream at the same time as the Know Your Horses guys. They've done too much for the community, and not only is it disrespectful, I'd fall behind if I allowed everyone else to watch their streams and was streaming at the same time and couldn't watch, because I've gotten the chance to talk to them. I've gotten the chance to see their earlier streams, and along with the website that they have, I think their streams will be another piece that as we're all trying to grow. XYZ is another one. XYZ is Siege and Dwest.
Okay.
So it's like we're getting all these people, which is great because these are literally people that have all different theories. So we're gonna live in a world and an ecosystem that it's on you if the way you play the game doesn't work for your stable, because you guys have something. Danshan's in general every day. XYZ has a podcast. Zed Gazette does this thing on Saturday. You can't get as many different theories as are being presented in the mainstream. So if you find one that doesn't work for you, that's just the stable you've been handed. Try another one, or try another one.
And so, Ponyplug will be Tuesdays and Fridays now. Why? Just Tuesdays and Fridays. MJ's on tomorrow night. He's Zero to Hero, where they're showing you how to race a horse that might not have got enough production. And him and Sean have slowly taken the horse to be more productive as far as ROI and wins are concerned. Danshan, do you have any, at least a podcast or something coming up or anything?
No, man, but I'm waiting for you guys to put me together with some of these heroes. I would love to talk to some of these legends.
Absolutely. I'm also on Tuesday or Wednesday nights, usually throughout the week.
I'm very interested in putting you and ZG on at the same time.
100%.
MJ Stables, I wanted to talk. MJ, I don't know why I call you MJ. Afterwards, I want to talk to you. I really like the Zero for Hero thing, and I think maybe next season we can work it into a few horses, or maybe at the end, based on the work you and Sean do, we could maybe raffle them off for charity or something after people get the chance to watch them for 10 weeks and get the loving of them, because I'm watching it. I'm loving that series. It really it's like watching the Madden people like do their series, or when you used to play NCAA Road to Glory series. It's just like watching that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's super dope. Yeah, I'll hit you up after this.
Sounds good. Yeah, please do.
Also, for those who will watch at a later date, this will be on YouTube. Wednesday, as usual, we'll put it on YouTube. The Zed Run Head channel. We're probably gonna rename the name of the channel soon, because it just doesn't roll off the tongue correctly. And I was gonna say Zook's also, he's doing his Ponyplug thing. Make sure you tune in. There's other people. Central Stables is coming to Twitch more often. Doofy's probably, he said earlier, he'll be streaming at least once an hour a day, so tune in. Follow us on Twitter. If you just recently followed us today, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And go and follow Spot and Sports, Pony Zook, MJ Stables, and I'm not Golden Globe Master on Twitter. I am All in All Games are games by gamers, because I am also an independent game developer. So that's just plugging everybody. The more you look at our stuff, the faster the community grows. And if you're getting into Zed or wanting to get into Zed, the object is to get more and more people into Zed, not as a pyramid scheme. Don't think of it like that. It's just to make it more popular because your investment will appreciate and value the more people who are racing horses and seeing what you see.
Yeah, and the thing I just want to say to you guys is, you guys are doing a great job, giving props to everyone else. But as I said before we came on stream, when it's Sunday night, I think of you guys. I know you're changing the name, but I think of Inside Zed Run. I really think you guys are the best, talk show format that we have going on right now on Zed. I really enjoy the Sunday nights. It's the perfect timing for the perfect format that you guys do. It's more of a great questioning, debrief after the struggle of getting wrecked on the track during the weekend. But yeah, I told you guys before, when I think of Sundays, I think of you guys. So just make sure you guys also think that as well. And this day is yours.
That means a lot to me personally because I'm in Sean versus All Discord and Ponyplug's Discord, and because they're more in voice chat, we're in voice chat. And I say this all the time. If it wasn't for the Ponyplug and Sean versus All, I wouldn't have even thought of asking MJ to come stream with me because Sean versus. What happened was, for me, you introduced Sean versus All to me by rating him. Sean versus All introduced me to MJ by rating him. And I was like, MJ has this personality that can keep me in check because I can be overwhelming and over the top at times. Y'all haven't seen it, but it's because MJ, like, I shut off and just listen to him talk.
Isn't that the best part of the? Isn't that the best part of the community, man? Like, I saw Tish and Doughboy streaming separately, and I hit up Tish, and I'm like, "Yo, go get this man, Doughboy. You guys would be killing it." Then they started doing their own thing, and then we started like combining. Like, if you see people out there working and grinding, and you see synergies, match them together. We're so early, and we need more stuff
100%.
like this every single night, every single day. There's not enough.
I think you guys did a great job, and I think you make a great team together, and I think you should really push hard to make what you're doing bigger and better. I think you've got a good thing, and I think it'd be great if you just if I was you, I would be bullish.
Yeah,
very bullish on what you got going.
Sunday night is for Inside Zed Run until you change the name. But
we're not going to change the name of Inside Zed Run. We're going to change the name of Zed Run Ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Channel change.
And please invite me back, man. Any of these guys want to talk to me, I'm here for them, man. I love discussing the game.
I would love to invite you back. You were controversial. Like I told you in private, I'll say it in public. There's people who hate you and people who love you. And I just feel like you needed a chance to put a voice, even though we're not showing your face, to put a voice and a face to the person so that people can realize you're human.
Yeah, I don't think I think that I think you're really right in the love and hate thing. I mean, I come across so abrasive, and I think that just hits so many people so wrong. They don't even give me a chance. So yeah, I hope I won some hearts over here tonight.
Yes.
Sean versus All said this, and this is a great analogy, and then I'll stop talking. This is the 60 minutes of Zed. I think that's the perfect way to put it. It's the sum up hour of each week. I think that's the perfect niche that you guys have filled. I think that you guys do a great job with it. I will say though, I am excited to see your first explosion and going off the rails because I've done it. Stanley's done it. I'm sure Sean versus All did it in his early days. And, eventually Zed is going to do something that sets you off the rail. And you're going to have a stream that you may look back on and be like, yikes.
Well, remember, I got banned from the Zed Discord. So within like 3 days. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Real fast, do you have any more questions, Zook? Sorry, MJ. I'm looking at MJ.
No, all good. Yeah, thank you guys both so much. Appreciate you both. This is fantastic.
And do you have any questions for each other?
No, this was, hey, Danshan, if you ever want to drop the swords, I know we've had some bad times in the past, and I know you probably don't consider me too close of a friend, but if you ever want to talk in private and hash things out, I'm willing to apologize for the things that I've said.
Hey, man, I'm opening to thinking about doing that.
Well, you think about it. You know where you can find me.
All right, buddy. I'll keep the DMs open. I'm on my way.
They're never locked.
All right. Well, thank you. We're gonna tune out.
Peace.
Until next week.
Thanks everyone,
Peace
man.
out.
It was a great time. I really loved it.
This was awesome.
Done
Thank
well.
you guys.
Thank you.